The new No Time to Die trailer is out, and here's our quick-fire analysis. It's all a matter of perspective. Hi, this is Dan Silvestri.
And Tom Pizzato.
And Vicki Hodges.
Of SpyMovieNavigator.com. Join us in cracking the code of this new No Time to Die trailer. We wanted to get this analysis out immediately when this new trailer was released, so we asked our co-host in the UK, Vicki Hodges, to just give us her quick perspective on it, since the time difference did not allow us to have her on for the full show. Her view sets the groundwork for the discussion of the new trailer that Tom and I will do right after we hear from Vicki. So here's Vicki.
Well, Tom and Dan, here's my perspective. This is definitely no time to lie. Wow, what a trailer. Let's take the same leap of faith as Bond takes as he jumps from the bridge and suspend ourselves for a moment. Who do we put our trust in? An old friend? A lover? The family? Who is the real threat? Rising past enemies? Fresh new blood? Or even Bond himself? Has Bond's past come back to haunt him? And is it spinning out of control like the Aston Martin DB5 in a barrage of bullets? And as these bullets whiz past us, we're left wanting more, like a power-hungry megalomaniac from the past. At last Bond is back, and November can't come soon enough.
Thanks, Vicki. All right, let's go, Tom.
This trailer is a good sign for me about the odds of the movie actually releasing in November. We're at the beginning of September, and the hype is beginning to start up again. We got the first official trailer back in December. Then there was another one during the Super Bowl, which was about 2 months before the expected April launch. So now that they're calling this trailer 2, which is weird because they've done multiple trailers.
Well, I think they call them ads. Super Bowl ad, Super Bowl spot, whatever they call them.
Okay. So this is trailer 2, but it's about 2 months before the expected release again. So this is really good news. It means they're cranking the advertising machine back up again. And for me, this is awesome. And it should be awesome for really any James Bond fan. They're spending money again. They're getting ready to go. Yes.
Yeah, I think they're committed now to November, but you never know what the hell's going to happen in this world. We've learned that, one thing.
That's true.
All right, this trailer confirms what the movie No Time to Die is all about. Perspective. Now, virtually every movie that has, quote, the good versus, quote, the bad is about perspective. The point of view of the actors or governments is what drives them to think that they are the good, whichever side or whatever it is that they're doing.
Yeah, of course, I'm going to think I'm doing good, even if you think I'm doing evil.
Exactly. This is how the world goes. History is replete with this, and No Time to Die drives this point home, as did Rene Mathis in Quantum of Solace, where he says virtually the same thing that Felix Leiter is going to say in this trailer right here. Hard to tell the good from the bad, villains from heroes these days. This is what this is about. So we will see in virtually every shot, this really is the theme. Perspective. Perspective between Swan and Bond, between Bond and Safin, between Bond and MI6, between Bond and Nomi, Bond and Leiter and the CIA. This is all about perspective.
Yeah, and don't forget Paloma in there.
Yeah.
She's going to bring perspective to this too.
Exactly. So, whose point of view or perspective is correct? That is the question that has stumped world history forever. Which is why, as Bond says in this trailer, the past is not dead. Let's take a look.
Wait, so the past is not dead. In Skyfall, it was all looking about aging and getting old. So now he's saying the past isn't dead. So this could be interesting to see if there's any tie back in to what happened in Skyfall or earlier Daniel Craig Bonds.
Yeah, what Ian does great in these trailers is give you just enough to start thinking like we are and speculating like we are, but not enough to know what the heck is really going on.
Yeah,
That's
and they'll
perfect.
get you to speculate about something and it won't have anything to do with the movie when you see the movie, but that's where it's beautiful.
That's perfect.
it starts off, Bond is nodding his head to the left and to the right, and he says the past isn't dead to Madeline Swan.
Yes.
Well, what does he mean by that? Her past isn't dead? References to her secrets that they haven't gotten to yet?
Yeah, I remember
You
that.
remember that line?
Mhm.
Or that the past is not dead. Like you can affect the past or what has happened, or you cannot ignore the past because it has an effect on the now or the future. The history repeats itself kind of thing. Maybe.
Yeah.
Or should we learn from the past? Historically, some things may have happened in history we can't ignore, and things we should learn from, like Hitler.
Yeah. Blofeld here says, James, fate draws us back together. Now your enemy is my enemy. This implies to us that since they have a common enemy, then Bond and Blofeld should be allies.
Maybe they are going to fight for their common good for something.
Because that's another historical fact quip, right? It's like, hey, your enemy is my enemy. We should be teamed up together.
So one thing I found really intriguing about that line is how they cut it from a video perspective. Right when he says the word fate, they cut to a shot of M looking at his phone and looking down, kind of dejected.
Yeah.
And a really cool car behind him, by the way. But it's kind of like, is the fate something to do with M? Because they cut right on that word fate is when they cut to M, and then they moved into Madeline and James together.
It is good to watch what words are said and what faces and images they're showing right on those words. And we'll see some more of that in this trailer as well. So, Madeline Swan says then his name is Safin. And Bond says, what does he want? Swan says, revenge. Now, we hadn't heard this before. So this is a new thing in this trailer. Revenge.
Revenge for what?
Yeah, revenge for what? We don't know, but now it's got us wondering, which is, again, great that the trailer's making us wonder. But easy to miss, it seems that Swan not only says revenge, but immediately after, it sounds like she says me. Okay, this is a reveal. Safin wants revenge. Me. Wow. Lots of implications can be drawn from that, and may indicate a connection between Swan and Safin at some point before, which may be the secret. So Blofeld says again, and we heard this before, when her secret finds its way out, it will be the death of you. When he's on the word her, we just said before, sometimes this, you got to pay attention to this, it flashes to Swan. Then to Bond burning the forgive me note in front of the grave, which we've seen.
We saw that in an earlier trailer.
Before.
Or ad, or whatever we call those.
And this note appears to relate to Swan's secret, the one that will be the death of you, according to Blofeld. Of course, we don't know Swan's secret, but what we do know is that she is Mr. White's daughter, and Mr. White was responsible for Vesper's betrayal of Bond. One must wonder if he had some family help, maybe from his daughter? What we do know is that Swan has a secret that she really doesn't want to tell Bond. And our bet is that the burning note is from her. Now it flashes to Bond in a tux in the center of a lot of people standing on what looks to be the CIA lobby floor in Langley, Virginia. But it is not, of course. The shot we have seen before is a very large room with lots of people, and it is clear the graphic on the floor is similar to the CIA logo, but there's no surrounding CIA seal, etc.
Yeah, now we saw the last three shots we just talked about, we saw in earlier trailers or saw derivations of them, which really makes us think that these are important pieces in the plot. But given that this is a trailer, I hope they even make it into the movie.
A lot of times, pieces from trailers never make it to the films. And we're talking about this like, hey, well, this is going to be in there. But we don't really know.
Yeah, but we've seen these scenes before, so you've got to believe they're going to be in.
Yeah. So all this is going on, and then you see Bond seated, and he's looking straight ahead, not at the person he's talking to. And you only see like the right arm of a guy in a suit that he is...
Well, he's wearing a blue shirt. It's a blue shirt.
apparently talking to, but we don't know who it is. Maybe it's M. And he says, "You can imagine why I've come back to play." Bond is staring straight off ahead, not looking at the person that he's talking to, it seems. So why the dead, cold, thoughtful stare forward? Could this be M after the previous trailer of Bond checking into MI6, if you remember that from one of the trailers before?
Yeah, and to carry that forward, he's got a visitor badge on in that shot.
Oh,
And
I didn't notice that. That's good.
he's got a it's on his jacket. The word visitors in red. I couldn't read the logo on the badge though to see if that told us where he was.
So that probably is the continuation of him checking in with that guy who says his name's Bond. He looks up, he's like, "James Bond,"
Yeah, like
you forgot me already, that kind of thing. So this might be like the next scene.
Yeah, it really could be. And it did appear to me like the little bit you saw behind him was M's office, I think.
Yeah, it looked like M's office, but again.
Yeah, and this also had to be fairly early on in the movie because his face isn't beaten up. Mm-hmm. And in most of this trailer, James Bond's face, has scars on it and bruises and cuts and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Or this scene, his face is unblemished. Yet, James does seem resigned when he says this. His perspective, going back to perspective, seems to be that he has no choice but to unretire. Because remember, he's supposed to be retired now.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that he chose the word play.
Yeah.
You can imagine why I've come back to play.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what that word play means in this context or what perspective Bond has here. But it's an interesting word they chose in that particular case. So then we see the plane flying over the water. We've seen this before, the one where the boat explodes shortly thereafter. But here, Leiter is saying, "There's a young lady in Santiago I want you to meet." Of course, that's Paloma. So you see the shot of Paloma. "You're late." Okay, another Bond trait we know. And we notice in the Ipcris file that Harry Palmer has the same trait. He's late a lot of times, too. So here it is again. Bond's late. Now, Bond tosses her some guns here, and he says, "When you're ready." And then the cool shot we have seen before of her firing two weapons at once, one in each hand, a la Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or Ethan Hunt in MI2. The same kind of thing, but it looks cool. She looks pretty damn cool firing the two weapons. But we saw that before.
Yeah, and they really show a lot more of Paloma's character in these trailers than what we've seen before. And I got to say, she's got some really great kicks and fight scene stuff that she does here. That I thought was really, really well done.
Yeah, she looks mobile and tough and trained and well-trained. Yeah. And we didn't see that before in the other shots. So
right, she was like in the dress, and you didn't see the badass in her. I mean, you see the badass in Nomi, but you didn't see that in her in the earlier trailers. Now you really see that. Yeah,
and we're going to now see a little bit more of Nomi, and you hear Bond saying, "I've met your new 00." Then it shows him on the phone saying, she's a disarming young woman.
I bet that's really him talking about Paloma. And they just cut it that way.
Who knows? Again, they're both disarming because you could believe that either one of them could disarm somebody if they needed to. Or maybe disarming in the way of getting rid of hostility or suspicion through the use of charm. Nomi and Paloma could be disarming in that way. Yes. So the new 00, Nomi, she says, "I get why you shot him." Who is the him? And what does she get? The him is Bond, and she's referring to when Moneypenny shot Bond off the train in Skyfall. You can see the brown chair rail behind Nomi sitting on the couch when she says this, and the same brown chair rail you'll see in Moneypenny's office when Moneypenny says, "Yeah, well, everyone tries at least once," while Moneypenny is sitting at her desk. And she's directly responding to Nomi's quip. Now that Nomi, the new 00, knows Bond a little bit, she understands why Moneypenny shot him. Ha! I thought at first maybe she was referring to Bond unretiring.
That's true.
Although Bond's retired like 8 times, I think, in these movies. So that wouldn't be a first. This is not a country club, 007.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Then there's an action shot of Bond with his automatic rifle, and something falls at his feet. It's obviously some kind of explosive device. There's a big explosion. So this is a new piece of footage we haven't seen before. Bond leaps out of the way. Of course, we don't know exactly what happened. We don't know where he is. We don't know who dropped it. And we don't know what happens to Bond afterwards.
This trailer really adds a lot more violence to what we've seen before in the trailers for this thing or the ads. And that explosion's another case of that. I think this is going to be an extremely big shoot 'em up movie, at least based on what we're seeing here.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there were a lot of explosions. You see the stuff zooming like fireworks in the sky almost.
Well, those were rockets shooting off. Those were rockets shooting off of the boat.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of that in this clip, more than before, like you said. So lots of action shots. Again, you see the DB5 firing and spinning, and you hear Safin. And this is, I think, the best part of this trailer. Safin says, "We both eradicate evil to make the world a better place. I just want to be a little tidier." Now, the word tidy means neat and orderly. I don't think Safin's trying to be neat. But it also means clearly ordered and systematic, as in efficient. And this could be frightening that Safin is saying this, that he just wants to be a little tidier. Okay, this immediately reminded me of Adolf Hitler, who thought the same thing. And it harkens back to what Mathis said in Quantum of Solace again, and what we'll hear Felix say again here. Hard to tell the good from the bad, villains from the heroes these days. We don't know what Safin has in mind at this point. Is it physical geography that he'll overtake to achieve his goals? People? Both? Like Nazi Germany's and Hitler's Lebensraum, that was this concept of taking territory that a state or nation believes it needs to fulfill its destiny or to have its natural development. So they expand. Is Safin doing this either geographically or metaphorically with some other resource, thing, people, or whatever? We don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea. It's going to be, his character is going to be really fun to watch, I think, when we actually get to see the movie.
Yeah, and here you don't know exactly what the meaning is. Again, everything is perspective here.
Yep.
If you think killing millions of people is good for the world, and you have many who agree with you, you look like the hero. But if you're one of the millions getting killed, or those who stand with them, then you are the enemy, the villain, the person doing this, or the organization or government doing this. This is how history is made. And I think we see a direct connection here, at least in perspective, with Hitler in World War II, where millions were killed. And here we will hear Bond say that if we don't do something about this, there's going to be basically nothing left to say.
Well, we see this in two earlier Bond movies a little bit, right? On Her Majesty's Secret Service with Blofeld wanting to send out the angels, and then more directly in Moonraker.
Moonraker, yeah. And here they literally tell you it's going to be millions.
Yes. There are a lot of great action shots, and some of which we've seen in previous trailers. And then we get a shot of Swan asking Bond again, "You don't know what this is?"
Yeah, and we saw that in the other trailer.
Yeah. Now, one scene we've seen parts of is when Bond jumps off that bridge, and he's got that cable, and he goes flying off the bridge. In the scenes we've seen before, the shots of this, we've seen the motorcycle.
Yes.
Now, one thing they added here is we actually see him apparently land from that, because he's coming. He lands with that rope in his hand.
Yeah, you see he's trapped on the bridge.
But then we see a rare sight for a Bond movie. We actually see a Maserati. And first I thought Maserati is going to introduce a new Maserati September 9th, 2020. So at first I thought maybe it's that, because it was one I didn't immediately recognize. But we have to remember that this movie was supposed to be out last November originally.
Yeah.
That got pushed to April. if they weren't releasing a new car till September, that's too early for them to do their introduction in the movie here. However, there's a very cool looking car in this trailer. Remember I mentioned that when Blofeld said the word fate, they cut to that shot of M, and he's standing in front of a very cool car.
Yeah.
It's a fleeting shot, but I couldn't read the badge. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they put it in late in, replacing something that was back there before and putting that car in there. So maybe that is the new Maserati. It's a really cool looking car.
Yeah, it's hard to believe they would have it in there without some kind of really good product placement.
Yeah, well, that's true. So, you know me, Dan, I'm going to research things. So I spent some time looking at it and finally figured out that was the Maserati Quattroporte 4 that tries to run them down. The Quattroporte 4 was from 1994 to 1998. So again, the past is not dead.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. You can look at the headlights and you instantly know it's an older model, but trying to figure out which one it was interesting to me. All right. So we also saw this car in the background of the scene from the prior trailer where we had that bell tower and Dan was talking about For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yes,
that car's there in this scene. It also appears to be in the scene when he spins the car around and is shooting the machine guns from it. So my question was, we barely ever see Maseratis in Bond movies. Could this have been some agreement with the Italian government? They were going to shoot this movie in Italy, so they had to show an Italian car in there. I'm not sure. That's only my speculation. The 2 times we've seen Maseratis in Bond films before was in the scene at the end of License to Kill when Sanchez and Truman Lodge are in the car following those tanker trailers. They're in a Bit Turbo 425i, which is a Maserati. And then Casino Royale has 2 Maseratis in it, but they're not being driven. They're just in parking lots.
In the parking lot, yeah.
In the parking lot. So I thought that was a little bit interesting there. But I really thought that this concept of the past is not dead, and then them bringing back a Maserati, but not a new one, I thought was an interesting tie-in to that the past is not dead.
And the DB5 is in there. Okay, we were talking about Bond on the bridge. Now let's get to Nomi. It's getting frightening now when Nomi says he's going to kill millions. Now, we assume that the he is Safin.
Maybe it's Blofeld.
It could be Blofeld.
Could be Blofeld.
And Bond confirms the gravity of this situation when he says, if we don't do this, there will be nothing left to save. So, again, great. You've got a wonder now, which is the point of the trailer. What is this that they're talking about? Defeating Safin? What is the nothing in nothing will be left to save? Natural resources, people, land? We're left wondering once again, which is exactly what the trailer's supposed to do. Bravo, Eon, once again.
Well, especially since they actually don't appear to be contiguous lines. Nomi appears to be like in an office setting, and Bond is sitting there in the field with this big machine gun or whatever kind of gun that is. And again, looks like they cut 2 lines together to intrigue us in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, nothing left to save in the world could mean that the world would be forever changed and that the good guys will have lost. Perhaps that's the message of the words that appear on the screen this November. The mission that changes everything begins. The same thing. The everything and the this and what's the nothing are all tied together here.
It's all perspective, how you look at those words.
It's perspective. The last shot of Bond turning to look over his right shoulder shows his face that looks tense, worried as to what is going to happen.
Well, Dan, wait. He's in what looks like a forest. He almost had a Land Rover land on top of him. There's all this gunfire. I'd be tense and worried.
But he's too. Bond. He's been through this 24 times.
That's
At
true.
least.
So anyways, this trailer, we think it's first rate. It's top notch and revealing just enough or revealing things to make us think one way when it goes another.
Yeah.
But we really are waiting for November. Great job, EN Productions.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap. And we'd like to thank Vicki Hodges, our co-host in the UK, for her thoughtful perspective. Thanks. This has been Dan Silvestri
And Tom Pizzato.
And Vicki Hodges
of SpyMovieNavigator.com. Join us each episode as together we're cracking the code of spy movies. Hey, do us a favor and message your friends now and tell them about our show so that they can join our worldwide community of spy movie fans too. Thanks for listening.